You mentioned earlier that the divide between kind of Republicans and conservatives are uh Republicans are just focused on the next election versus conservatives are the ones that kind of push these movements or have these core beliefs. What via pro-life, pro-American values, traditional values. And I want to ask you, uh, how would the conservative vision be laid out? Because when you look at the left, uh, when you think Democrat, you do think progressive now. As far as the progressive vision that it was kind of separate from the Democratic Party, they seem to have one where if you look at things that Democrats are pushing, even Joe Biden, Joe Biden's out here tweeting about LGBT, IA plus now,
You
and
don't know what any of that
yeah,
is.
he does. But the fact that the leader of their party is able to push things from the progressive platform kind of shows, to your point, that the progressive part of that party uh is much closer to the microphone than the conservatives are in the Republican Party. And
Mhm.
so I guess my question is like a two-parter, which is what would the conservative vision be? And the second part would be what can conservatives do to get closer to their microphone like the progressives were to the Democrats?
What would the conservative vision be for what?
Like their platform. Like with progressive, they have the trans movement, they have Black
Right,
Lives Matter, they have
right.
like what is that, for conservatives? Like what is
This
their
is
platform?
Yeah, this is the problem. This is why education matters, right? When you educate an entire group of people to believe that they're supposed to be cared for from birth to death by the government, of course, that is the easy message that you're going to sell them when they turn into voters. We have the message of freedom. And guess what? Freedom doesn't sell itself. We thought it did, but it doesn't. And freedom's a hard message.
Mm.
Freedom is not a very sexy message because involves self responsibility, self reliance. It involves consequences, right? It involves a certain measure of opportunity, but also making your own opportunity, and so it involves um, paying. It involves cost, right? No one wants to pay for anything these days, so it involves cost. So that is the problem with the message of freedom. I bring up Harriet Tubman a lot. I occasionally dipped my toe in the filmmaking world, and I did a short film a few years ago on. I got a grant to make a short film on Harriet Tubman. I did like it's an action movie. It's not a documentary or anything. This is a reimagining of Harriet Tubman as an action hero, like a black
Okay, I
exploitation,
like
like
that. Yeah.
Pam Grier. You can go look up Minty, Minty, Minty Harriet Tubman movie on YouTube. You can see it there. Um, and anyways, I chose that story because I wanted to choose a story about the perils of choosing freedom. But I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do it in an entertaining way. And that's how Harriet Tubman was. She said, I would tell my people that I was taking up through the Underground Railroad. They would say, "Well, what are we going to see when we get to Canada?" And I was like, "You're gonna nothing. You'll have nothing. You will have exactly the same thing as you did when you left. The shirt on your back, whatever you carry in that sack. No, there's no parade, there's no home for you, there's no, bed to lay your head in. You will have nothing, but you will have your freedom, and that's
Mm.
everything. So we have to raise a generation of people who believe freedom is more important than their comfort. And that's the message that we're trying to sell. So, yeah, that is a hard message. This is why I'm harping so much on raising kids to be receptive to that message from the beginning, which is what we used to do. We had a generation of young men who willingly went to war in World War I and World War II because they believed in freedom more than they believed in their own comfort. The idea of there were young men who lied to get into the military to be available to fight, young men who lied so they could be available to be drafted. Why? Because they had some death wish? Well, no, there was a different concept of what it meant to value your nation and fight for your family and what freedom cost, what it costs. So as far as the microphone for those messages, well, there's a lot of microphones around these days, and I think we're starting to see it. I think, if I could just be blunt, like a few more old people have to die before we get on board with this whole messaging thing. But you look again at what Democrats are doing and what liberals are doing. They're hiring TikTok influencers, social media influencers, and those people aren't a lot of money. You throw a couple of grand at some kid on TikTok with 1 million followers, and you've got a mouthpiece for brand new voters who are hitting 18 next year. You know, Republicans don't have a long game strategy like that. They assume that liberals own the space, but they do not. There are plenty of conservative influences out there. TikTok has a ton of conservative influencers that you've never heard of. It's not Tucker Carlson. It's not Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
It's some teenage girl in her bedroom, between lunch period and third period. And those kids are doing what the liberal kids are doing. They're doing it conservatively. They're getting millions of hits. You're just not in the right space to see it. I include myself as one of those people. But those people are out there. The Republicans could do what Obama did, throw money at them, go on their shows, humor them. Don't look down your nose at those people because that's new media or it's some silly fluff Snapchat show. Go to where the people are, throw a little money around. Look at all the money that Ronna McDaniel spent on Lululemon and haircuts and plastic surgery at the GOP. If you threw half that, throw $20 million, which is nothing in a presidential election cycle, throw $20 million at social media influencers. Give them your talking points and let them go nuts. Don't lean on them. Don't just give them their talking points and then walk away. It's a strategy that's working for the left. I believe it can work for the right, but it's just too many cranky people in charge.